Hi, it's Miss Kathy from Impact Christian Center's Kids Church, and we're going to do another lesson today. We're going to start with some review questions just like we did last time, and there's things that you're going to get to do after you answer the questions. So let's see if you remember a little bit from last week's lesson. After Jesus was in the tomb, somebody was the first person who came to visit him, and Jesus spoke to them. I'll give you a hint. It was a lady. Do you remember the name of the first person that Jesus spoke to? All right, let's say it together. Are you ready? Mary. Mary was the first person that came back to the tomb after Jesus was alive, and Jesus said, "Mary, don't be afraid. It is me, Jesus." And then Mary wasn't afraid. Very good. If you said Mary with me, then I want you to run in place, and I'm going to count to 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Very good. All right, let's see if you could remember another one. So Jesus was alive again, and he said to Mary, "Go and tell all the other friends that you saw me and I'm alive again." So she did. She ran to go see the other friends, the disciples, and told them, "Hey, Jesus, I saw him. He's alive again." Now, somebody did not believe that Jesus was alive. Now, I'll give you another hint. This was a man. One of the friends that was a man said, "No, I'll believe he's alive when I see him." Do you remember the name of that disciple? Well, why don't you say it with me? Thomas. Thomas did not believe. He said, "I'll only believe that if I could see him myself." Well, if you guessed Thomas with me, then I want you to wiggle like a worm and giggle. Wiggle and giggle. Can you do that? Wiggle and giggle. Good. Get your wiggles out. Good. Now, Thomas said he would only believe that Jesus was alive again if he could actually see him with his own eyes. So, 8 days later, when Thomas and the other friends were all together in a big room praying and just talking to each other, somebody walks right into the room, and it was Jesus after he was alive again. And he walked over to Thomas, and because Jesus knows all things, he knew what Thomas said. Now here's the question. Do you remember what Jesus said Thomas could do so he'd really believe it was Jesus? This one's a little harder. Do you remember? Let's say it together. Jesus said, "Thomas, see my hands? Touch my side." Did you remember, see my hands and touch my side? Jesus showed him the holes in his hand where the nails were from the cross. And he said, "Touch my side where the spear went in me." And there was a big boo-boo there, but it didn't hurt Jesus anymore because he was alive again and he didn't have that pain anymore. So, did you remember that Jesus said, "Look at my hands. Touch my side"? Well, if you said that with me, then I want you to stand up straight and touch your toes 5 times. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That was a hard one. Did you do it? Good. Now there was a couple of the things that Jesus did after he was alive, and we're going to read about them today. Now listen carefully because we're going to have more review questions next week, okay? Now we're going to read out of God's Story for Me Bible, and let's see what this Bible says about the things that Jesus did after he was alive again. Are you ready? Now, Jesus was alive again, and his friends went back to doing their old jobs, and most of them were fishermen. So we're going to read now about breakfast on the beach. Jesus was alive again. His friends had seen him 2 times now. One evening, Peter said, "I'm going fishing." He and his friends went out in a boat at night. All night long they threw out their big nets and then pulled the nets back in, but there were no fish. They did this all night, still no fish. The sun began to rise. Peter could see someone on the shore. Can you see him back there? The man called out, "Did you catch any fish?" "No," Peter shouted back. The man said, "Throw out your net on the right side of the boat. You'll find some." The men did, and the nets were filled with fish. John said to Peter, "It's Jesus." Now you see, Peter didn't recognize him at first because he was far, far, far away and very tiny, and he didn't know who it was. But he did what the man said, and a miracle happened. A miracle is when God makes something happen that couldn't happen any other way except that God made it happen. And these fish, none of them would come into the net all night long. But because Jesus said so, they put their nets down, and Jesus caused all those fish to go into their nets. That is the miracle of the catch of fish. Peter jumped out of the boat and swam. He wanted to get to Jesus. Everyone else rowed the boats to shore, dragging the heavy nets full of fish. When they got to the shore, Jesus had fish and bread already cooked for them to eat. Later, Jesus talked to Peter. Before Jesus died, Peter told people that he did not know Jesus. He even said he'd never met Jesus. Peter was very sorry for his words. Jesus wanted Peter to know he was forgiven. Peter had lied because he was afraid of getting in trouble, but Jesus told him, "Peter, I forgive you." Jesus told Peter about his good plan for Peter. Jesus told him, "Be like a shepherd, help people learn about me and follow me." He told Peter this 3 times. Jesus still loved Peter. Well, I hope you listen carefully because there are a couple of questions I'm going to ask you next week. Maybe about what the fish were. Was it just something that happened just because they were fishing, or was it something called a miracle that God had done? And maybe something about Peter. Did he always tell the truth, or did he lie because he was afraid? I don't know. Those sound like good questions. So I hope you were paying attention. Well, you have fun with this lesson, and I'm so glad that we were able to do this. And I will see you again next week. Bye.